Hi, everybody. This is Toné Compito, musician, bass player, and administrator for Victor Wooten Center for Music and Nature. You are watching The Case for Bass. Keep on thumping.
I'm Anthony Githers.
And I'm Greg Weiss.
And we are the hosts of Case for Bass.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and good morning to our guest as well. And welcome back to yet another episode of Case for Bass. I'm here with my co-host,
Greg Weiss, and we want to thank everybody for the continued support and great comments we're getting about the episodes and all the bass players we talk to. And we have a really special guest today. Anthony met Tony at the bass camp that's run by Victor Wooten that Tony assists with, and I'm going to pass it on to Anthony. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome Toné Compito.
Well, thank
Toné
you.
Compito.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes.
Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yes. All right. So I met Tony at the bass camp. Obviously, we coordinated prior to that. I remember you being one of my first points of contact for coming from the airport. So
right.
Tony has a very That's right, coming from the airport. So I reached out to Holly first, and Holly said, you're going to hear from Tony. I said, okay, cool. That totally works for me. So, and that's how we became cool, and that's why you're here today.
There you go.
Okay, Tony. So let's talk about this. So, did the bass choose you, or did you choose the bass?
I would have to say the bass chose me. And I think it's interesting. I was a piano player.
And why do you think that is?
Yeah. So as a kid, I grew up playing classical piano. I was trained classically, and never really understood a lot of the theory behind what I was doing and what I was playing. But when you're trained classically, you're just reading music. But over the years, my brother was in a band. In grade school and through high school, he played the bass, of course. And I remember just always being so drawn to it, but I didn't want to play. And I thought, man, one day. But as I grew, trying to grow musically and create my own music and learn how to improvise, which I had never been taught as a young person. If I wanted to try to play something, I had to play the bass line first. And, over the years, I did songs. I love to sing harmony, background music. I was always either humming a harmony or the bass line, but never be humming the melody. It just wasn't my thing. And it started to hit me like, this is like, it's calling to me. And when my brother had passed away in 99, and he had built some basses for himself. He actually had built Victor's, the Compito fretless 5-string that he has, Purple Heart, the one he's played on Cosmic Hip Hop.
Yes.
Yeah. So I inherited a bass very similar to that. It's like a 4-string version of a Compito fretless.
Okay.
And that was back in 99. And I finally picked it up in 2012 and said, I'm going to learn this instrument. And 6 days after I picked it up, I got a call from one of my brother's old friends that was in the band that he played through in high school. And they were doing a reunion gig a few months later at our old school. And I said, oh, that's so interesting. They were like asking me for pictures. I said, it's so interesting. I just started to learn how to play bass. And they said, we don't have a bass player. So you can step in and play in Joe's place with our band.
That's cool.
So 4 months later, the bass player was born. That's
cool.
Wow.
It found you.
So
It found you.
It found me one way or another. It was going to find me.
That's a great story.
Yeah. What was your very first bass that you acquired?
Oh, so the first bass that I acquired is actually still my number one. It's an Adamovich from the Netherlands. Nikola Adamovic is an amazing luthier. Builds a beautiful, beautiful bass, and so my first bass was this custom, gorgeous.
Do you have it? Do you have it in your possession now?
I do. Let's see.
Can you show it to us?
I certainly can. Let's see. Let's get this on screen here.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
yeah, it's a
gorgeous.
olive wood,
Look at that.
Wow.
and headstock there.
That's
But yeah, he did a
beautiful.
gorgeous job. I don't know if you can see,
Wow.
but instead of dots, he did a female thing. He put Swarovski crystals.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Nicole had made some special touches for me. It's got this ergonomic kind of curved back, and
Look at that
I
thing.
mean
That thing is stunning.
that's really nice.
it's
Wow.
gorgeous. Yeah, and it sounds like a dream. It was built for versatility, so it could get the tones, quite a few different tones that I need, and that's just been my number one. That's my gigging bass.
Nice.
Wow. You mentioned that you, in our last conversation, that you applied for the Fame School. You were trying to get into that school at some
Oh
point.
gosh, yeah, that's going back to childhood. I went to a
Mm.
Catholic grade school, and then of course we had to choose what high school you were going to. You didn't, like the public schools, you just kind of continue on to the junior high or whatever.
Mhm.
And I grew up in Elmhurst in New York.
Hey,
And,
New York.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Hey, New York.
Hey, New York, yeah. Here we are, a bunch of New Yorkers.
Mhm.
And so I auditioned because I was playing piano again at the time, and my friend's older sister was going there, and she was encouraging me. She said, "You've got some talent. You should just go." And I was like, "I don't play, what you play. I play classical." She said, "That's fine.
Mm.
Just go in there with a classical piece or two to audition." So I did, and I got accepted. And my parents were very against it. They wanted me to go to the academic Catholic high school that my brothers went to,
Mm.
and so I didn't go, and it was my one regret for many years. Later,
Mm.
I'll mention something about that in a minute, but yeah, so I didn't go, and it changed my life not to go, because I went to the academic school they wanted me to. I hated it,
Mhm.
absolutely hated it, and I'll say, and let's see if I can get the order straight. I got pregnant at 16, had my daughter at 17.
Mhm.
Somewhere in there, I left the school, but anyway, I think that life would have been different. And don't get me wrong, my daughter is the best gift I've ever had in my life, so I have no
Mm.
regrets on that.
Okay.
But I always wondered what it would have been like had I gone to that school, because I guess at the time that I was in there, Bell Fleck was in there, Omar Hakim,
Oh,
Bob.
you would have probably been a professional player if you're
I
around
would
that
have been
circuit
hanging with
with
them.
those people. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
as a performer, maybe, instead of, what was fascinating was that years later, and again, this is one of those things, camp has a way of being a healing balm on the soul. I don't know what it is, but
Mhm.
certain revelations have come to me over years and years of working for the camp, working for Victor. And the one camp, I think it was a music and nature camp, Omar was there with his wife Rachel Z,
Okay.
and they were playing, and then people were asking them questions, a little Q&A, and she started telling a story how when she was younger, she didn't go to a particular school. It was a college, I think she was choosing. I don't remember the exact story, but there was something that she didn't do, and always thought it was a regret. But then it turned out, hey, she wound up meeting and marrying Omar and doing this and playing with this person, and how things have a way of working the way they're supposed to. And that story hit me so strong, because I thought, I always regretted not being at that school, but look at who I'm hanging out with. I'm friends with Bob Franceschini. I know Bella Fleck. I just met Omar Hakim. I'm working with Vic. All of these things just came full circle.
It's almost as if the school came to you.
It came to me anyway. Just,
Yeah.
I'm working with these people, just not as a musician. I'm working in an administrative capacity.
One of the things that we hear when we were talking about common themes, one of the first interviews we had with I think it was Ivan Bodley, where he constantly goes into projects with the blind faith, as it were, of what the outcomes are going to be, and his idea and the concept was looking forward. None of it makes sense, but when you turn around,
Yes.
Everything, all the pieces fit together.
Yes.
And it's whenever we talk and we hear the stories, I always look for, okay, so where was that path of I don't know what's next, and then people turn around and they go, yeah, but it all came together.
It all comes together. Yeah.
And it's it's a thing. Tell us about your first band.
Oh, well, not the one that I sat in with, my brother's old
Well,
band.
that wasn't your first band.
It was kind of my first
Oh,
band.
really?
Yeah, I tried
So
playing keys.
you got the bass, you got the call, and now you're in a band.
And yes, and it was just for, a few things. We rehearsed for, oh my gosh, I think I heard about that in January, and our gig was in May.
Okay.
And so I just played with them those few months, and then after that, I did not play with a band again, other than maybe I'd sit in with my son-in-law on a gig or two, just a little bit here, a little there, playing, but not really playing in a band. And
okay.
How did you study?
I'm sorry?
How did you study for the gig?
How did I study? Well, at the time I was still with Anthony Wellington, my ex, and it's Anthony, just Anthony.
Another Anthony.
The other Anthony. He
Well,
coached me.
the reason why I'm saying that, because you're with this guy, you're not just with anyone. It's this incredible bass player.
Yes.
Incredible,
really,
and educator.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's
brilliant. It's funny, over the years I've known Anthony for 20 some odd years now, and we're still very, very close friends. We're very, very good friends. But we never really did lessons. I think he was afraid to teach me. For many years, he was like, well, you're, this relationship, you're going to be one of those girls that cries in a lesson.
Oh, no.
No, they won't be. I mean, eventually I did take, but I've probably only ever taken about 6 or 7 lessons with him ever, actual lessons. But I used to listen to him carefully. I would listen to him teach. He would teach, at the house. I would sometimes go hang out at the shop and just watch and listen. And just by osmosis, I picked up way more than I thought I did.
And so you were drawing on the background of the piano and a lot of the, I don't want to say theory because it's a dirty buzzword, but you were just the experience of what a piano brought, you were bringing into the bass.
To a degree. I almost, I'm not sure that that's fully correct. I had a well-trained ear, I think,
well, it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and I've found that as I learn, if I listen to something so many times over and just pluck out that particular instrument, I would listen to a bass line and just, play it over and over as I'm driving, whatever, work, every day at work. And then when I would pick up the instrument, just because I heard it, I was able to translate it to
That's
the
awesome.
instrument. And it's funny, to this day, I still have problems. If I hit a note, something I fret on one of the basses, I'll have to think and say, what is that note? I've learned the bass in the exact opposite way that I did piano. Piano was like, you knew what every of the 88 keys are,
it's in your
exactly.
Face.
You can read it. But on the bass, I'm like, it was all patterns and feel and theory. And that was what I really absorbed from Anthony Wellington's lessons. He is so brilliant at getting that stuff under your fingers that it becomes like a muscle memory. And to this day, I still play more by ear and like that, and very rarely try and read a transcription.
Awesome. Growing up, what were you listening to in your house?
A little bit of everything. Growing up in the 60s and 70s, a heck of a lot of Motown.
Okay.
The Motown and the soul and the funk of the 70s. We were also big into the Grateful Dead and Crosby, Stills and Nash. And and then I went on to listen to a lot of kind of like the British progressive rock, Renaissance.
Sure.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer,
Yes,
all of that kind of thing. And so yeah, it was quite a well-rounded musical background. And classical was always playing in my house. My dad was a classical pianist.
Okay. So you got into playing piano courtesy of your father, or just being exposed to it in that
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
Okay.
Started playing when I was, as since I can remember, and then actually taking lessons. Started taking lessons when I was 6. Horrible
Okay.
teacher. Horrible, horrible, worst experience of my life. I think it
Wow.
created mental blocks like this to
Mhm.
learn from someone like that, and
Hmm.
it was a shame. I wish I'd known back then and had the kind of teacher. I teach some beginner piano myself, and I wish that I had someone like myself who was pushing,
Mm.
the theory and the creating chord creation and you
Mhm.
know.
Do you find that teachers kind of are like therapists, where they have to match their clients, or in that
Very
sense, where
much.
there has to be chemistry between the teacher and the student?
Very much so. Yeah, because
Yeah.
everybody, I think, learns in a different way.
Yeah.
I learned that, I mean, there were some methods that when I would watch Anthony teach other students that I felt were, a little harsh on some. So I could see why some of his female students might cry, in
Mm,
a class.
sure.
And,
Trust me,
just
my guitar teacher made me cry.
yeah,
Come
see, I
on,
mean,
make me do it.
sometimes it
You
Dude,
can do it.
he was like a gunner in the World War II or something. It was it was learn your scales and
Mm.
memorize and da, 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 da. And you wanted to be there and learn and but if you didn't do that, there was a discipline side
a
of
consequence. Mm.
I'm disappointed in you
Yes.
Yes.
and
Well, I want you to continue that, because that is very much a thing. We were talking about that, not applying combat sports, but I want you to continue that, because there is a big difference in how you approach the genders as far as teaching, as far as that's
Genders or personalities, and I'm
personalities. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And naturally, I'm kind of an empath. I'm a natural counselor type. If you go into the whole, Myers-Briggs thing, it's my INFJ. I
Okay.
am a counselor type, so I think I automatically am very good at reading people. It's a
Okay.
skill, and I use it in my daily job as well. I have to deal with emotions that,
Mhm.
whatever. But in teaching, so to get back to that, it's
Okay.
very key to pick up. Some people need to be pushed a lot.
So you're definitely not teaching. You're not teaching this hardcore. You don't do this hardcore approach to teaching.
No, it has to stay fun, especially and
Mhm.
anybody that I've taught, I'm not. I'm just studying. I just started studying piano again, jazz with someone that I'm now dating in New York, who's a fabulous jazz pianist. Just uh, anyway,
Okay.
but
The piano player. Yes.
yes, yeah. But and his style of teaching is also very, very akin to mine. Uh, Anyway, it's you have to feel out what someone needs and have different approaches, the ability to
Oh,
do it, and
okay.
you always have to keep it fun. If it's not fun, I teach a lot of young students.
Okay.
When I do teach, I'm teaching young
Mm.
students or older students that are like, I've always wanted to play the piano, and I say it's never too late. It's just not too late. I had a 60-year-old
Yeah.
year old woman that was missing a pinky.
Oh,
We had to
she's missing a
modify.
pinky. Wow.
She was,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, just from some accident when
Okay.
she was young. And so we had to modify everything. I mean, really, it's just you just got to be able to be flexible, I think, and feel what someone needs. She would also get very nervous, and I'd be like, "It's just me. What are you getting nervous?" She's like, "Do you have any wine?" And she would drink a glass of wine, and she'd be all right. And we'd say, "Here's your wine. Now let's go do the lesson."
Oh God, that's
Wow.
great.
Everybody's got a different need.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's
awesome.
Works.
well, I mean,
Yep.
it just going what you're saying is that you want music to be an outlet and not a cause of stress,
Yes.
because there are
Mm.
also a lot of people who play who can't really break the block
Mhm.
No.
of getting, well, we'll say next level, but it's improving your skills in your ear in order to be more of a communicator than it is self-torture.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, go
So,
ahead.
Anthony, what were you saying?
Now, well, I was going to ask in the sense that, so you have more, because you're not a career bass player, obviously.
No.
But you surround yourself. You're married to an incredible bass player. you surround yourself with music. I mean, obviously, that's a beautiful thing that you have this passion for music in that sense. Looking in the background of your place, you got the cool electronic drum set, which I want to get. I eventually want to get one of those.
Yeah.
You get the variety of instruments there.
That's
Yeah.
that's my that's my newest attack. I just started taking lessons with the great JD Blair, the groove regulator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a groove
And
regulator. He was there. He was
yeah,
there. He was there. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've been wanting to. I always said if I ever learn the drums, I bought these years ago. I was living in a little condo, and this is when I was playing bass a lot with 3 different iterations of female band, and
Hmm.
I wanted to work on my time, my sense of time and rhythm and whatever. We were playing a lot. We were a party band. Well, we were 3 different versions of a band, and one was very party. We did a lot of dance music, and I knew that drumming, rhythm was going to help me. So I purchased that living in
Mm.
the apartment, and I said, man, one day I'm going to take lessons. But if I'm going to take lessons, I want to take them with JD. And so I
Mm.
recently was able to make that happen, and have just literally started some real lessons. So I'm real content with that.
Okay. Let's talk about the people that you surround yourself with. And look,
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous. No, I'm jealous of you, and I'll tell you why. Because you are you're like, well, I'm not going to marry Anthony. I'm sorry, it's not where my head is at.
Well, me either. I did that already. I
Like,
won't do it again.
you were there. Yeah, you've been there, done that. The fact that Omar Hakim and you're cool with Victor and your brother had all these people around him. It's like you again. The fame school came to you. I mean, like, look, we would all of it. It's like you were around this plethora of talent. It's like being in a toy. It's like being in one giant toy store, and
It is.
it's like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know people have said, and my brother was my best friend. Really, we were
Mm,
soulmates of the original kind, where we just communicated with an eyebrow, or one little
mm,
smirk just told a whole paragraph. So when he passed, it was big. It was intense in an odd way, because you know, I can't even feel sad even when I think about it. This man had like the biggest smile in the world, and when he passed away, people flew
mm.
in from other countries to see him. He was playing with country artist Don Williams. He was touring
Oh,
with
Don
him at
Williams.
the time,
Mm.
and so he knew people all over the world, and it was huge. We had to do
Wow.
services in 3 states. New York with the
Mm,
family, upstate
mm.
New York, where he lived up in Oneonta and went to school up there, and then down in Nashville, where he had lived. But when he
Okay.
passed, he had introduced me to Victor early in the 90s. I think I met him the first time in the studio with the Flecktones. They were recording, might have been
Mm.
Left to Cool, or I don't know. I'm not sure which album it was, but um, and after, so I got to know Victor a little bit, and Holly, in between that time after I met him. When my brother was still alive, I went down to Nashville a few times and hung out with them. And but when he passed,
Mm.
they had it was shortly after that they did the first bass camp, and I was not at that one, but right after that, some friends that were teaching. They lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's where I was living then, and they lived there. And they
Mm.
said,
Okay.
let's go see the Flecktowns." We went to see the Flecktowns, and they were talking about this camp, and Victor said, "We just finished this. You got to come check it out. We're doing another one in September," and that was 2001. So it was the second camp. And he said, "Just come on down, check it out." So I called Victor's now manager, Danette, who I also knew from way back in New York. And we went down, and
Hmm.
I hung out, and I basically just didn't leave. I went down. I started at
I
the end. I
know.
started unpacking boxes and loading a truck and gear and selling merchandise. And so I've kind of done 20,000 different things at that camp over, the last 24 years. But
Hmm.
now it's just more administrative and behind the scenes in their website, some of their website work for the campsite and registration, as you know, and so yeah, it's just become that's
Yes.
I've met a million people through that, and then other associations that went on doing. I was producing the bass bash for about 6 years at NAMM.
Yes. Let's talk about the bass bash at NAM. Like, how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, so again, through my through knowing Victor and Anthony at the time, I think I was in between jobs. This might have been 2015 or no 2014, I think it was. Anyway, whatever year it was
Okay.
around then, the guys, Dave Avenius was the CEO at Aguilar at the time, and he had told the people who had it before that he would take it over, and then he realized about 6 or 8 weeks before the event that he didn't have the time. And I was between jobs. He says, this isn't going to be a paying thing, but are you interested? I was like, sure, yeah, I had no idea what I was getting myself into at the time. It was quite the ordeal, but again, so I did it for 6 years, took the event from a smaller place, grew it, expanded it, and had a lot of fun, and again but it was quite the ordeal. Had a lot of help from Justin Huth, who's Trickfish. He's the Trickfish guy.
Yes.
Justin was like totally instrumental to me. Jack Trefiro, who's Victor's sound guy, tour manager, also was huge. He ended up being my sound guy. I've learned so much from being around those people, but Bass Bash was exhausting. Wow. It took about 6 months of my life to do that at night, and coordinating, finding the people who would play, trying begging people for money. And it was stressful. I was producing it. I'd put the money up front and then hope I made enough back just to pay myself, and any overage I would donate to camp or to a scholarship. I'd give out scholarships for camps.
Wow.
So I never made a penny on it.
That's fantastic.
And
wow, that's awesome. That's incredible.
It was a great experience. I don't regret it, but I was ready.
That's incredible.
2020 was the last one I did, and I was ready, and I became friends with John Dioria and Chris at now Bass Magazine, and I handed it to them.
Okay.
Whatever they do with it is what they're going to do with it.
I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask a question that how do I put this? It's the opposite of a question I've been asking. Because when we're asking players, how important is it to have a support system of somebody or people around you that keep you focused? But I'm going to turn that around, and it seems like you are the support system that literally combines with the artist to let them focus and communicate with gigs or recordings, or because I've never heard of your supportive role is like a 50% force in what would make a product out.
Interesting. Yeah, you could say that. I mean, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes for any one gig, a show, a couple of shows. The camp.
Yes.
There's all this.
But you also mentioned earlier that you're a natural empath. So like the fact of your character and your personality, you just naturally are support, and you're really good at it. Like you're not like. Is there such a thing as a mediocrity in being an empath? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I just know it's interesting. It serves a purpose that is good for the kind of positions that I've put myself in, or maybe I've, inserted myself into those kind of positions because of that. I just had we'll call it a promotion or something at my regular job too, where I'm now kind of this a technical liaison, because people seem to come to me and dump their issues at work and what needs to be fixed and what's not working and how do you do. So I've kind of naturally fallen into the role, and I said, hey, how about I make this more into a real job?
Well, it becomes a skeletal part of a function in that sense, meaning it sometimes it's not enough just to be a performer. And that the performer has to become part of, there has to be a unity in order to make it work. It's like a company in a factory. Just because you have a machine and can turn out widgets doesn't mean it happens on its own.
Yeah.
It just can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, you need an office, you need supplies, you need, supply chain functions in order to keep it moving. And usually people just see the face of the performer.
And that's, it's funny, but I've often said that the people who are great musicians that are out there and you see them, people who are visible, are there because they have a support system behind them, because
Mm-hmm.
you can't do all
They
of
have a
it.
great support system. Exactly.
It's the music business. So
Yeah.
somebody has to be the
No man,
business
no
aspect.
man is enough.
Well,
It's
it's becoming part of this program is that the line "No man is an island" really can ring true. I mean, we've got solo players and solo artists, but it really goes beyond that.
mm-hmm.
And for you to fit in and literally create a niche. I'm going to say it's a niche because there may be other people like you, but the way you do it is very pronounced in its impact.
Well, you have your own unique approach to how it's done.
Yeah, it's quiet.
I think that's
I'm not, it's funny. I often thought my brother was very similar. You never quite realized the impact he had on people because he was just this silent force, and yet he did. You don't realize that the impact you have on people, but
Can I tell you something? That's a very Asian martial arts style. It's very Bruce Lee in that sense. Not just Bruce Lee, but other martial artists. It's the idea of saying less, yet you do more,
mm-hmm.
and yet people realize the impact later. It's not the immediate. Or what's that line that what did Victor once said? It's Maya Angelou. It's not what you say. It's not what you do. It's how you make people feel.
Yeah, it's the truth, and to be to be able to make that space, to create that space where someone like Victor can do what he does. He doesn't want to worry about registration and this kind of, what I mean. This is, let him be, the name on the marquee. It's
that's the really the theme of the question.
mm-hmm. And
that is
Holly,
true.
his
think
wife,
about it.
It just, the whole camp has been, we called it the camp built on love. And it was, people just came and did, they just building and all kind of skills that put that together, donating money, and physically going there and tearing things down and cleaning and, building structures over, a matter of days. It's without that. I mean, it's all there, not because Victor did it with his own hands, but he's the kind of person you want to support. If you're a great person like that, you attract the right people to make your dreams become a reality.
Yes. Well, he's also got a very unconventional approach. Look, the fact that he's extremely personable, that to me I thought was really, really cool. The fact that he's very personal. Well, you wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for the camp, obviously. So you wouldn't be on this podcast. Yeah, this is even when I first met you. Again, you were behind the scenes, but then you walked in at one point. You had a really small bass.
Oh yeah,
you bought the bass.
Myonas, my baby Myonas. It's called a Cali. Yeah.
Yes.
My baby bass. That's a cutie too. It's it's just I looked at them for a couple of years, and anyway, it's all those.
Well, that thing is awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. I like to collect. I like to collect a little bit. I try things out for a few years, and then maybe I trade them in. Some I'll never. My number one, my Adamovic, will never go anywhere. That will never leave. Neither will my Compito fretless.
Mm-hmm.
There's just things that I absolutely will not. My Music Man bongo basses, they're never going anywhere.
Nice. Well, I love the fact that you have. First of all, you have your name attached to an instrument, so that's kind of a cool, unique thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
The fact that you have this Compito fretless.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I never thought of it that way, but it's to me it's all Joe. He did that. He did something special when he built those fretless basses. That bass that he built for Victor was an absolute. My God, that thing sounds. Every time I hear it, it just makes the hair on my arm stand up. It's so beautiful.
Beautiful.
Okay, Greg, it is now that time.
Oh boy. Okay.
Here we go.
Tony, this is the part of the show where we ask you to pull out. We call it the forest, where there are your babies, these instruments that you collect and you have, and generally we ask for the top three. Your three favorite basses, but in some cases it turned into 7 or 8 for some people. Yeah. And whatever's closest, whatever's furthest. You mentioned the Music Man bongo bass. I'm a Music Man guy. I love my Music Man, and it's a collectible. It's a bass people talk about, rarely own, rarely play, and
I play mine here.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right.
Is it close by?
Yes.
They're both close by.
Okay.
Nice.
Great.
Let's see.
Here we
So
go.
this one is my 5, and it's a it's a kind of a limited edition.
Nice.
Dargy Delight 2, I believe, as it has the oval.
Yes.
Instead of the martini glasses, you know.
Yes.
Awesome.
It's got
Hold it up full frame. There we go. There we go.
Wow.
There, how's that?
That's gorgeous.
All right, so that's my 5.
That works. Oh my God.
And that thing plays and sounds like a dream.
What kind of strings are on it?
That's a 5.
What type of strings do you play on that?
Oh, that one I have flat wounds on it right now, labellas.
Okay.
Yeah, from Newburgh.
Look at that. Oh wow, that's
okay.
That's my 6 string.
Wow.
And that's my go-to 6. I had another one, I sold it, but this one, that's a baby. That's not going anywhere. Let's see. Oh, all right. So since you mentioned this, I will. This is the one I had at camp.
Anthony's been talking about this.
No, not that one. That one I've been talking about, but there's another one. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the Mayones Cali. Wow. That thing sounds incredible too. It's a serious instrument. Wow. I got a little Kala U bass acoustic.
Oh,
this is the one. Oh, there's also an NS upright I have there in the corner. This is the one that Tony wanted to see. That's I've got a Federa NYC old one too.
Oh well, yeah. You gotta bring the Federa forward. Look at that's the bass
I know you wanted to see this.
Yes.
So this is I'm trying like it mirrors the thing. Nope. No neck.
Sick.
Yep. It's
incredible.
Exquisitely custom, built by Maurizio Uber.
Yes.
He's an Italian guy, but he lives in Malaysia, I believe it is.
Okay.
And but he builds these and sends them out. I want to say it's Malaysia. I could be wrong, but a wonderful person to work with. And he did that thing that paint job. I can't even.
Wow.
But this was a great little you take it to bed, you sit it on your lap.
Yeah, that's exactly why I want that instrument.
But that's a thing. I mean, there's no micro. Well, obviously there is, but to have a smaller instrument as opposed to always having a long scale neck to learn, play, experiment, because whether you're bringing it out or not, standard basses are 34-inch necks and longer. Yes. But you pulled out something. I always see it because it always shows up on my phone. Is the U bass?
Oh yeah,
is the U bass? Could you talk about that for a minute or so?
Oh yeah, I would love to. So that the Kala U bass. I got this, and I think I was another great thing that happened from doing all that stuff at NAMM and the Bass Bash was that I developed a lot of relationships with these luthiers and different companies, the different merchants, and so I met the guys at Kala and fell in love with this.
Wow.
They come with some kind of rubber strings.
Uke strings.
Yeah. So, but at some point they started making golly strings, started making these flat wounds specifically for this instrument.
Wow.
Right.
And so you put them on, and this thing, once you plug it in, it sounds like a full upright bass.
Wow.
Right.
That's crazy.
It is fantastic. It's
right.
It's just Yeah.
I mean,
So it's
usually
funny.
you just see pictures or you see, a little blurb, but you don't really get to talk to an owner.
Oh
No.
gosh, they're fun. This thing is a
Okay.
lot of fun, and those strings made this a real serious instrument for me. Once I
And
put those
I
strings
think I
on.
also think they have solid bodies out now too, right? They
They
got
do.
a 4 and a
Yeah.
5.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's funny. I'd been looking for one of those fives, and at some
Yeah.
point,
No, I
I
hear
might
you.
do that. I'll give into one when I can see a five for sale. I've had a hard time finding one for sale, but
Interesting.
So
but
let me ask you this: do you prefer 5 and 6 string basses? You stay
oh
away from the
yes,
fours?
yes,
Okay.
yes. The one thing that I learned. Here, I'm gonna hang this back up here a second.
Sure. Actually, on the way, can you bring the New York Federa as well?
Oh, sure.
There
Oh,
goes your
Black
cat.
Cat. Black
Cat's in.
Cat.
Oh,
The
cat
cat's in.
sighting. Yep, that's Quincy Jones.
Quincy
Yeah.
Jones.
Come, Quincy.
All right. So this was my brother's. Another one
Whoa, that's gorgeous.
inherited. It was made in the 90s,
Mhm.
and it's all ash,
Wow.
and it's plain, simple, gorgeous, and boy, this one actually has just round wounds on it. I think they're DR, but that thing is just amazing if you're playing funk.
Mm.
On
Oh, I
it.
believe that.
Beautiful bass.
That looks like a funk bass.
It's a beautiful sound. Yeah, it's nice and crisp. It's got punch. And of course, Federa. You can't go wrong with the Federa sound.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No, you can't mess around with the Federa sound. You know very well it's a solid. It's a solid sound. Period.
Another common theme is that the Federa Anthony and I call it like a New York thing or an East Coast
Yep.
thing that it's an instrument that top players always refer to as like the ultimate,
It's like the Lamborghini.
the top of the mountain.
It's like a Ducati.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a Ducati. Yes.
It's a Ducati.
Yes,
True.
because
Yep.
where Anthony and I go is it's either Fender DNA or non-Fender DNA.
Mhm.
And when people break out and they go outside the norms, the Federa seems to be that choice.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's amazing, and so yeah, and it's funny because I don't play it as much because I'm just not comfortable on 4 strings. I'm a 5 or a 6 string player for a reason, and that's the economy of motion.
Right,
I don't,
right.
Hey, your cat's here.
oh yeah, so here's
Hey,
Quincy came
Hello,
to say
Quincy.
hi.
Quincy Jones,
Quincy came to say hello.
nice cat.
Yeah, so even I have a stick upright. I have another upright upstairs. It's like a baby bass.
Okay.
And I did not carry that one downstairs. I left
Yeah, no.
it. So it's funny. I got 3 floors here, and each floor has basses and keyboards available.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Baby grand on the main floor with the upright the Latin bass, and
You have your own music store. I like that.
yeah. It's you know what? I'm a spoiled brat. That's all
Mhm.
there is to it. I'm spoiled. I got instruments on every floor, so I can be comfortable playing on anyone.
Wow.
But
That's awesome.
my NS upright, the stick bass is also a 5 string,
Whoa.
which I'm
Okay.
again just much more comfortable on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is actually very cool. So,
Yeah.
do you ever have any? Are there any intentions of ever doing another bass bash, or are you done with that?
I'm not part of it. They want me to kind of participate, just because they felt like I had brought the event to a different level, and I said I'd be happy to. But they did something online, of course, during COVID, and they had planned on doing something this spring, not at NAMM, but in the spring, and then something happened that they postponed till fall. But I don't have a date on it yet. I don't know what's going on, or if they're going to bring it back to happen during NAMM or not. But again, I passed the event on. It's theirs, and I'm happy to help or do what I can to help. But I got a really full plate. Wear a lot of different hats. So
Wow.
I got a full plate as it is.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, thank you for showing us all your cool instruments because you got these gorgeous.
Thank
Gorgeous.
you.
Yeah.
I feel very, very blessed to have all these around me. You know, a lot of beautiful.
It's something we always talk about, is that we all have this common goal of creating low tones, but how we approach it and the tools we use are so diverse. They're so
Yes.
unique to our personalities, and it's something that we know other bass players really like to see, because, like, in the guitar world, everyone's got a Les Paul, they got a Strat, they got a Paul Reed Smith, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's great. What year? What model? Blah 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 blah." But in the bass world, where it's a no holds barred environment, you've got, standard, well known instruments, but you've got these one of a kind masterpieces, made by these artists all over the globe. We see it every day, and it
Mm-hmm.
pops up on your phone, and you definitely took the deep dive into understanding and promoting and encouraging
Yeah.
where these things are. I want to thank you for that, because
Yes.
a lot of people don't go that far. And a lot of
Mm.
people get basses, and they'll end up on a wall, but they really won't get played. And
Yeah.
it looks like you play every one of them.
Well, yeah. Once I don't play something for a while, that's when it's time. That's when I have to look at it and say, okay, it's time. It's
Wow.
time to let it go. And it does. I've bought and sold quite a bit of that kind of stuff, and I'm just trying to make space in my. Sometimes making space in your life also it means making space around you physically. To
That's true. That's true.
allow
And,
things
and,
in.
and, and that applies to everything at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it really does. It does.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, like I said to Anthony, I mean that the camps have just been. I couldn't encourage people enough to go to those camps. It's life changing. It's life changing from my side, even watching people do that.
Yes.
Go through the experience from start to finish. You see them, walking in being all excited. I'm going to spend a week near Victor Wooten. And by the end of the week, they're blowing right past him and just, doing their stuff. It's like he's just.
He becomes
catalyst.
literally. He's like the guy. You're like, oh yeah, hey, good morning, Vic, and then you kind of do your thing.
Keep on going. Right. It's the relationships you form there, the network of people. It becomes almost a spiritual experience by the time it's done.
It does.
Even on my side, as someone who's an administrator there, I'm transformed every single time I'm there, just by the energy, watching everybody. It's just seeing it all come together. It never gets old for me.
Good for you. Yeah, and you've been there for 24 years now?
So yeah, this was my 24th year, and the camp's 25th year.
Wow. So
just love it.
That's right. So I'm very happy that I was able to partake in the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, it was a good camp. It was a good camp.
It was a fun experience.
I was just admiring from afar.
Yep. What advice would you give, because we're coming to the end of our session, what advice would you give to anyone besides this case? I want you to do it twofold, because you play piano, you play bass, and you also are surrounded by all these awesome people, and you're married to Anthony Wellington. You're tied into Holly and Victor Wooten for a zillion years. Your brother was a bass player. What advice would you give for the camp, to participating in the camp? And if you're an aspiring musician who wants to play, if you want to play for a living, like, what would you say?
Yeah. I mean, as far as someone who wants to be a professional musician, and I can only say this not from my point of view, because I'm not one, but is never stop working on who you are. And this is something that I know has been expressed at the camps, but I also, I was very fortunate to go on tour with Victor a lot, and over the years. And if you're not a good person, if you're not someone that people can get along with for 22 hours out of the day, I mean, you're only on stage for a few hours, 2 or 3 hours tops, but you need to be the kind of person that people want to hang with on the bus, or in the hotel rooms, or in these towns when you're traveling all over the world. you got to be a good person. If you're not, doesn't matter how technically proficient you are on your instrument. And so that mentality, there are people, names I won't name, that I've heard have lost gigs from not being a good person to hang with.
A good hang.
Or alcohol or drugs or whatever. There's a lot of reasons to lose a gig. But a lot of people will hire. I think I've heard Victor say this at the last camp, as a matter of fact, that he would rather hire someone over someone who was technically proficient but nasty or hard to get along with, attitude, ego. He'll hire the nicer person, who's willing to listen and be cool. So there's a lot to becoming a professional musician, and just putting yourself out there. I also think the other thing is never stop learning. You have to always be a student. Be open to hearing and supporting and serving the music, serving the band. I mean, you can't think about yourself up there. It's a group effort. It's a symbiotic thing.
This is true. Spoken like a true empath. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Actually, I want to comment on your who's the bass player who taught the class how to work in Nashville. What is his name? But he was super cool, and he said part of that was being able to hang around with the person, being a good hang. Like, you have to write down 10 reasons why you'd be a hireable musician.
Oh, was that Rod Taylor?
Rod Taylor, yes, Rod Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love how he said that. He goes, you want people to feel comfortable hanging around you.
Yeah.
Just, you're on stage, like you said, a couple of hours, and then you're off. Then you're on the bus for the next 20 hours. And if you get to the point where you're annoying, it's like, all right, next stop, drop that guy off. Don't bring him back. Replace him with somebody else.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yes. Yes. So that makes a big difference. All right. Yeah. Awesome. All right. And we have, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Tony, that was brilliant.
Yep.
It was. I mean, everything was insightful. Everything was on point.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't want to go into.
You made the case for bass.
Yeah.
All right.
Even though you're not, even though you don't play professionally, you're just.
But you are. You are professional.
And you're surrounded by a bunch of.
You are a professional. Whether you're on stage or not, you're still a professional.
You were born into You were just born into this position.
Thank you. I think.
Let's kind of like Victor was born into being a bass player. He had no choice.
Yep.
No, you're right. It's where I'm meant to be. I'm much happier once I realized I didn't have to regret not going to that school. Exactly where I need to be.
Yep. Awesome.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for inviting me. This was fun.